Yo, what is up, guys? Today I'm going to be showing off all of the characters from the Capcom beta prototype of Red Dead Revolver. So that includes an entire Blender file, which includes all the models ripped directly from the beta prototype of the game. And I'm going to be showing off gameplay of all the characters within the prototype and even their final version counterparts in-game. Buckle in, this is going to be a long video. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get right into it. Alright, so here we got our Blender file with all the characters. Now I've actually included this file alongside of all of the levels. So from the previous video, if you've seen that, this will all be in one Blender file. Also, I will mention as a side note that I have Blender 3.6, as you can see down here, 3.6.1. So if you are having problems trying to load up the actual Blender files, try downloading that version of Blender instead. That should solve your issues. But anyways, let's get right into it. Same as before, Bullcorn, he made this whole tool. It's the same tool as I used for the actual levels, but I used what's called Xmod instead of just the regular mods. So like, for some reason, if I were to try the regular models instead of the X models, that's when you'd get like a mangled mess of character models. You wouldn't actually get them in their default pose. But let's go right into it. I'll show off all these little models. First, starting off with the animals. We've got hens and chickens. Or actually, that's a rooster in the hen. Sorry, I had them backwards. But yeah, you don't actually get multiple versions in the final version, which is interesting. So that's cool that they actually had like 2 different versions, but weird that they actually decided just to go with just the hens in the final. There was also a wolf model here. I could not find the texture for him though, so unfortunately he is untextured right here. But here's the wolf in the final version of the game. So by using a modified ISO of the game, I was able to replace DOA, which is the normal dog that Red has, with WLF, and it actually worked really well. So as you can see, you got this wolf model, and it fully is rigged up, works perfectly fine here in the cutscenes. But unfortunately, you'll see it's broken in actual gameplay when it's in actual gameplay outside of a cutscene. But it's interesting they had a whole wolf. Like, obviously you have the dog, and that's in the final. That's Red's dog. But yeah, he's pretty much the same as he was in the final. I think he might have a few more polygons, but aside from that, yeah, he's pretty much the same thing. You have the saddle here for all the mountable animals. You have the bull, and you have the buffalo. Those pretty much look exactly the same as the final. Interestingly though, for the horses, we actually have 2 separate horses here. And I believe you only get the black horse in the final. You don't get this big brown horse. So that's cool. But yeah, that does it for the animals. Like, there's not too much to really look at for them. So we'll just continue forward. I have all these characters to go through, and I plan on showing off all of the playable ones. So as we go through, I'll show off some gameplay footage for each that are able to be played as in-game, and then also I'll show their final version counterparts. So like, obviously for the baby, you can play as the baby. You've seen that, I'm sure. If not, I'll show it off right here. So yeah, for the baby, it's just pretty much a floating model with some invisible legs and arms, just a head and a little torso kind of thing. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the baby. Like it doesn't have like an actual usable uh, model in the final version. You can do it, and we actually had done it. I'll show that off right here. So as you can see, it's pretty much the exact same thing as what we had in the prototype. Just a floating head and torso. The legs are all invisible. But the thing is, that was just done by like replacing only the model and using the same skeleton as an existing character. So it's not like a proper thing that's not like actually in the final, but technically is. It's weird. But moving on, we have BDG, which is Dan in the final version of the game. But his name is actually Gorgeous in the prototype. Also, you will notice none of these characters have hats. For some reason, when I imported them, I did not get any of the hats for them, except for Smitty. I got one of the hats for him, which I don't know why. So, unfortunately, they won't have their hats here, but still get to see all their character models, which is still cool. Maybe eventually I'll figure out how to actually import the hats into Blender, and we'll actually rig up some of the characters. I actually really do want to do that and like rig up the characters and have them just for whatever projects, and maybe even putting them into the final version of the game. That would be really cool. But that's definitely something down the line. We got to figure out how to import custom characters, like external character models, into Red Dead Revolver. And to do that, we're going to have to figure out how to make custom RSC files. Not too sure how that works yet, so maybe down the line we'll figure that out and we'll have all these prototype characters added into the final. That would be sick. So here's Dan in the beta prototype. His name is Gorgeous and his ID is BDG, which actually stands for Badger, so I'm pretty sure he also had the name Badger at some point. But this is also an unused level that I didn't really show off in the previous video, gameplay wise. As you can see, Carlos spawns in and he starts riding around the dog, so I thought I'd show that off here. That there's a rideable dog for some reason. Pretty interesting. And here's Dan in the actual final version.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a varmint what don't know its own business.
And here's some gameplay of what it's like to play as Dan in the final. But moving on, we have Billy the Kid here. Again, he's a loadable character. I'll show him off right now in game. Also, the same thing as the baby. He is still in the final version in the files, but like not a workable, loadable character unless you modify some of the game files to actually like replace his skeleton and like just replace an existing character like TW7, which is just a Twiggy that was unused. That's how we've mainly been doing it, replacing either Twiggy or DBY, which is Davy Crockett. Just random characters you can just replace just the model and then you'll have a working version of them. So I'll show that off too. Also, as a quick side note, all characters that I end up restoring and using, I'm only pretty much changing the model, and then I'm keeping everything else the same as just regular SRD red. So they could look better in some cases. Some of them don't actually fit the skeleton too well, so just keep that in mind. But next up, we've got chicken. So you'll notice I have a faceless version in the front here. So the reason for that is it's called fchicken, so fchk. I'm guessing the F stands for face. Obviously some of the characters have some facial rigging, so like this must be a version that they were planning on having the face in there, and for whatever reason I didn't get the face to actually import properly. But here's what he should look like by default, with like a regular face that's not riggable or movable or anything. Then you'll also notice I have all the other LODs. So this is LOD 1. Let me make sure I got that right. Yep, LOD 1. So then you got LOD 2 and LOD 3. Just pretty much lower quality as you go down. You know, for when they're further away, you're saving on resources. So that's cool to have all those versions. This is something you would never get from a like regular character rip, or a model rip I should say, from like Ninja Ripper. For Ninja Ripper, it only will give you what's loaded in. It will never give you like the extra stuff like other LODs or nothing like that. So this is definitely cool. It's a perk of Volkhorn's tool, so definitely like seeing that. Same thing with like what you guys were seeing in the previous video with how in the levels they would show like what's climbable and what, like all these extra things basically. Things that aren't seen regularly in game but are there technically, just invisible. So definitely some perks of this tool. So appreciate Volkhorn for this tool. So it appears that both fchk and chk chicken both look the exact same. But then here we've got fchk again in the final version. He's still left over because in the end they end up just using chk as chicken and kind of just left the remnants of old fchk, the facial rigging one, in the files, just unused. So we still have like the old version here, which is very interesting to see the comparison. Next we've got this guy with a sword. I'm not even sure what is going on. Just some weird default posed character. His character ID is CLO. So not too sure what he was for or anything, but yeah, he looks like he might have had pretty much the same model, like for clothing at least, because he has a tailcoat here. He looks like he might have been one of the reds. I'm guessing the blonde one that you'll see down the line over there somewhere. But I don't know what the deal is with the sword. Interesting nonetheless. But yeah, he's not a loadable character. Interestingly though, if you do the import model tool for the final version of the game, you'll actually get to pull him and he'll have his texture here. And as you can see, he just has a rainbow default texture. Also, as a quick side note, if you guys want to see a video in the future about the final version models with this tool, then definitely leave a comment, let me know. There's actually a few things I was able to pull that's pretty interesting. Unfortunately, it doesn't pull all of it yet, so hopefully we get the tool to work in full eventually. So we'll move on. Next we got Carlos here. Carlos also would have had the facial rigging. He's one of the characters that you can load in, so I'll show that off. Same thing with the baby and Billy the Kid, where he's in the final version, but he's not like a regular playable character where you can just change your character ID and actually load in. He will not show up or work. But when you do replace a character model with him, his textures don't come out correct. I don't know why, but he has the wrong textures basically. Also, obviously, he is a different model entirely in terms of they changed him up to be the character with the dynamite in his butt. So, like, I guess eventually they were just gonna have CLS be that guy with the dynamite in his butt for whatever reason. And they got rid of GMA and just never touched him again. So he remained the same actually. But it's interesting because they actually made CLS into the sheriff, and they had this CL2 for the dynamite in the butt version.
You did good, son, but you're out of luck. Where are you running off to, Sheriff?
Moving on, we have Christina, pretty much. It's CTN, which is Christina in the final version, but in the prototype, she was going to be called Ashley. And we know this because I actually found a unused texture that shows her as like a selectable character, and it has her name on it too, so show that off right now. As you can see, like, her name was going to be just Ashley, but she's one of the dance girls basically. A red version, which is pretty cool. Maybe eventually we can replace the broken one with this, and maybe we can fix them. It's definitely doable. I'm sure we can get them all fixed up and fix their skeletons. In time, we will. But she has multiple LODs, which is pretty cool to see. Looking like an N64 character in this one. Kind of funny. Put her in GoldenEye. But yeah, that's CTN, or Christina, or Ashley, whatever you want to call her. I'll show her off in game here. So she still kind of exists in the final version. We have a version of Ashley here that's wearing blue in the final version of the game. And her ID is actually CT2. It's interesting how they initially were handling texture swaps as just full-on new character IDs. They weren't using actual texture swaps initially. But yeah, you'll also notice that CT2 here is just completely broken. Like, she can't even shoot straight. So I don't know what they did wrong there. And then we have CTN here. And CTN is just Christina, the actual dance girl that we did get in the final version. So as you can see, they overwrit Ashley.
Well, you're pretty good in a fight, stranger. The only problem is you lost your guns in all the ruckus. Here you go. Looks like you still got some business with them brothers. They ain't what you call kindly fellers.
Open the damn door, woman.
Well, good luck to you. But I gotta look out for myself, so this door is getting locked behind you.
Next up, we've got the original dad. So instead of Nate Harlow, we would have had this guy. Just some fat guy. Not really sure what else to say about him. He's just a middle-aged fat guy. I don't know. But yeah, he's just pretty basic character model. We got all the LODs for him. If you played the prototype, you'll definitely recognize him. They do use him. He's in the first stage, you know, the what would be called bullseye in the final, but just the training stage, I'm pretty sure, in prototype. I'll show him off right now. And here's Nate Harlow in the final version, just as a comparison. So after a bit of editing and looking at character models, I kind of come to the conclusion that TDV, the engineer for Railroaded, is actually the same base model as what we had for the original dad. They just slightly changed him up. So I thought I'd show him off here. But moving on, we have Dance Girl, DCG. So they also overwrit her. In the final, this is Katie O'Grady, which is crazy. They just overwrit her. I don't know why they chose Katie O'Grady to be a dance girl. Doesn't really make sense. But this is DCG, the original from the prototype. Pretty cool design. Honestly, I like it. I'll show it off in game here. So in the final version of the game, DCG is actually completely unused. She does exist in the unused level Saloon, which is the Widow's Patch Saloon, which I covered in the last video. If you guys haven't seen that video, definitely go check it out. I covered every level in the prototype. But as you can see here, Katie O'Grady, she has some weirdness with her eyes. They're like untextured or something. They just kind of look gray. Not really sure what happened there. Cool stuff. Anyways, next up we've got the training dummies. So this is the training dummies that you actually shoot at on the one stage where you're talking to Master, whatever you want to call him. He's the lion grizzly guy, you know, from the final. He's grizzly, but he was gonna be your your trainer or whatever, like pretty much helping Red learn and stuff. But these are the targets you shoot at across the creek. But they're actual playable characters, so I'll show those off as well. So, interestingly, we actually do have one of the targets still in the final version of the game, and this character model is actually usable just by our character swap PNatch cheat codes. So, completely usable, still exists, has its own unique animations and everything. Unfortunately, only have the DUA version. All the rest do not seem to exist anymore. And this one was not a playable character, just a regular dummy. It's not quite the same one you get in the final version of Bullseye either. Slightly different. It's also a lot less geometry than the other one. Moving on, we've got Frankenstein, or FRK as they put it in, as his ID. As you can see, he has kind of a green tint to his skin here. Just kind of looks like Frankenstein, yeah, pretty much. Like just a wacky character. Super tall, bulky type of dude. And he's got multiple LODs as well. So that's pretty cool. I'll go ahead and show him off now. That's Frankenstein. So in the final, he's actually not even pretty much the same character at all. Like, they've completely transformed him. But he's FRK is actually Greg Big Oaf Whitney. So just Big Oaf. If you remember when you're versing Bloody Tom, George, and Big Oaf. Yeah, he's the one with the beard on the side. So kind of strange that you would have thought out of the characters that he was supposed to turn into, that he would have probably turned into George, considering how similar their stature is. But yeah, no, this is actually Big Oaf in the final. So the first thing you might notice when I load up this character is the camera is really high up on him. And I believe that is because since this is the single player version, they never actually edited it for use for a player to use them. And it's high up because it used to be that tall Frankenstein character. So very interesting. Next up, we've got character ID GAY. So now it may make sense why Bloody Tom has gay as his character ID. They decided to do a man in a dress. I'm not sure what happened here. But yeah, they have 3 LODs, which is interesting because they all look the exact same. I don't see a difference in these LODs at all. I really don't. Usually you'll see it in their face, like that's the main place where they lose geometry, but they're actually the exact same, all 3 LODs. So that's interesting. But I'll go ahead and show them off in game here. And this is his final version, Bloody Tom. yeah, that's character ID GAY. Next up, we've got Guardian. So his ID is actually GDN, and he survived into the final version of the game. He's a loadable character even, which is crazy because like he was never used. So the fact that you could actually load in as GDN is pretty cool. But he doesn't quite look the same. He actually has another character space. I'll show that off right now. But yeah, like they completely changed him. I liked his original design a little bit more actually. And he actually had a cool little ability there. You can jump around and kind of float down. I'll show him off in game right here. So yeah, that's Guardian in game. Here's all of his LODs, so this one actually does get lower and lower quality as you look through them. As they should, you know. I don't know what happened with Tom. There's a couple of them like that where they don't actually lose quality for their lower LODs. So I'm guessing they're just like placeholders if anything, and they didn't actually make the lower version of LODs yet, and they planned on it. If you know, if they made it into further development, but they just didn't get to it at this stage. So I'll go ahead and show them off in the final version of the game here. So if you play as this character, you'll notice that if you try to melee, you actually have Grizzly's attack, which is the claw attack. And if you run out of your Deadeye, you'll then have the beta shield bash attack, but it won't do anything if you use it. So yeah, that's Guardian. Next up, we've got Gigolo, GGL. So as you can see, he's the same as Chicken, where he has a missing face because he had some facial rigging going on, and it did not import the face. But here's what he would look like. This is his LOD1, so this is full quality bit pretty much. It's crazy how different they actually look. It's definitely a different art style from the final version of the game. The textures are way different. Some things did remain the same, like Gigolo's shirt here, but they seem to have like smoothed it down a little bit, which is honestly better in my opinion. But I do think, aside from the texture, I think the geometry, there was more detail actually in the prototype. He's LOD2. It's more like an N64 character in that. Okay. They gave him a little bit of baggage. Okay. What? How did that? Bruh. I didn't even notice that. Alright. Okay. So, yep, that's Gigolo, alright. And that's LE3. Okay. Whoop. Where am I at? Okay, I'm upside down. Blender being weird. So, yep, that's Gigolo. I'll show him off in game here. And here's Gigolo in the final version, just as a comparison. So as you'll notice with the fggl version of Gigolo, he's still the beta prototype version, but just like most of the beta prototype versions of the character that exist, still in the final, the textures are all wrong. So next up, we've got GMA. GMA is the one guy that you see in the prototype stage, Share Knight, and he's the guy that's like held captive. He's got his arms bound. He's got dynamite in his butt for whatever reason. I'm not sure the idea. Is just supposed to be a comedic character, I guess, but it's pretty funny. I can't lie. But yeah, he just runs around with dynamite in his butt, and it's lit, and he's just panicking. So yeah, that's GMA. Here's his second LOD, and his third LOD. They actually got different stages for his LOD on that one, probably because they actually did have him being used in that stage, so he's one of the characters that they actually got to make the lower levels of details. So that's cool. I'll show him off in game here. I'll also show him off in the final version, because he does exist in the final version in the files, but you have to fix him by replacing a character model, so show that off. So then next up we've got Hedgehog. Hedgehog also is going to have some facial rigging. As you can see, he's got a missing face. So all the ones with the missing face, I put them up in the front just so I can point them out easier. Then LOD1. So this is what his face would have looked like. Obviously he would have had some kind of animation going on. I wish I would have got the hats with these model ribs for sure. Not sure what happened, to be honest, but for some reason you don't get them. Maybe in the future we'll get them, and I'll actually re-add them into these Blender files. But here's LOD2. It looks like it's got a derpy. LOD3. It's just getting worse, as you would expect. And then LOD4 is weird, right? Like, so he's got more geometry. I don't know why, but they decided with LOD4, it seems like they've only changed like his texture, right? I'm not sure what happened there. He just looks like he's burnt though. I'm not sure at all like what the deal is with that. But yeah, that's Hedgehog. I'll show him off in game here. And here's what we got in the final version. Something else worth noting is whenever we get the characters restored that aren't really usable. A lot of times their meleeing won't be working, and their hitbox actually just doesn't affect somebody while they melee or vice versa. So moving on, we've got Jesse. So this is the guy that you duel with in the stage Ghost Town, and he's got some weirdness. I don't know, he looks like he was drawn by a kid with crayons, and he's got some weird red textures going on his hands and his neck. Not sure why. Seems like they just, maybe we don't have the right texture for his neck, like his skin pretty much, but his face was separate. I don't know. But either way, he's a weird character design. I don't know why they even thought this looked good. I'm glad that actually went and completely changed him up. He looks so much better now. So I'll go to show him off in game here. And here's him in the final version. So yeah, that's Jesse, or you know, Jes. So next up we've got Jin, or Ginny, in game as they call her. Now this is Red's younger sister, which is kind of funny that we actually have like dialogue when you're fighting Darren, where he'll literally say like, "Didn't you have a little sister?" Like he'll taunt Red while you're fighting him. So maybe like they still planned on having Ginny be used, or maybe it was going to be the baby over there. Who really knows? But either way, she still exists in the final version's game files. She's just not like loadable, pretty much like most of the prototype characters. But we are able to force load her. Unfortunately, doing that gives her the wrong skeleton, so she ends up looking lanky and weird. But I'll show her off in the prototype here. And here's that lanky, weird looking version of her with the wrong skeleton. I gave her red skeleton here. Interestingly, there's also a JI2 model. I noticed that if you try to load her in as an NPC, she'll actually be like giant. Like she's not just lanky, but she's bigger too. So it's weird. Yeah, that's Ginny. She doesn't have I don't know, like it doesn't look like she has any differences with her LODs as well. I'm pretty sure they're all the same. If they are different, they are very slightly different. There's not much difference going on at all. So moving on, we've got Max. This character is very interesting. His skeleton is beyond screwed up, like on the final version when we were like trying to restore characters. He has like I think 6 tails, because most characters they get a tail file and it has just like one tail. So Red, for example, he has srd.tail, and that controls his actual, like, his coattail, you know, and it flaps around or whatever. Max has, I think, 6, which is wild. So when you try to load him in, he's all sorts of messed up, and he's stretching all across your screen, and his geometry is all messed up. He's also a weird design. Why does he have sunglasses? Like, very strange. Now, if we go inside the sunglasses, he doesn't have eyes either, so, like, it was definitely just a part of his character design just to have those. He's actually a cool design, though. I can't lie. I kind of like his design. He looks cool. He could have been a cool little boss or something. Maybe without the glasses, if they ever, you know, let him reach the final version. I believe he has a sombrero as well. So I'll show off like what I know, because we have a texture here. It shows off all the characters that are from a certain point in the game. This is in the final version of the game that we found these textures. So in this texture it shows off that all of these different characters, like from this version, it's a very old picture. They even did a weird copyright logo thing over top of it. Not sure why they wanted to like cover it up like they did, but if you look though, you'll see Max up here. But yeah, so sometime I'll actually go through all these unused textures and all these cool finds we found in the textures. I'll do a separate video on that because there was a lot to actually find. But yeah, that's Max right here. So that's LD1. He's got a box on his back. I'm not sure what the crate would have in it. Maybe just more ammo or something. Very interesting. But here's LOD2. Not sure what's going on with the popping right now. Blender's just being weird. And LOD3. So he actually had multiple LODs, even though he doesn't work in even the prototype. So like I can't even show him off in game, unfortunately, because he just doesn't load. But I'll show him off in the final version here, even though it's just a mangled mess. You'll see he's just all sorts of mangled. You have to kind of work the camera around to even like spot what he's supposed to look like. But yeah, he's Broken Max in game. There's actually a couple characters that will freak out like this just because their tail files are all messed up. So a lot of times, usually the tail file just makes it go to 0, in the map, but in some cases they do that. But that's Max. Next we've got Mom, M-O-M. So this is the original Mom model, not Falling Star. So she didn't make it into the final version at all because they overwrit her with Falling Star. She was a pretty cool model, actually. Like, looks pretty proper, you know. Legit model. It could have been an NPC, honestly. I don't know why they would have cut this. It has a lot of detail on her face, actually. Very cool model. I'll show her off in game here. So weirdly enough, when you try to load in MOM as your character, it'll give you a broken CTM instead. I'm not at all sure why it does this, but she is all sorts of contorted and broken, so definitely too bad that we don't get the actual Mom model. But at least we get to see what she was supposed to look like through our Blender file, so that's neat. And here's Falling Star in the final version. So next up we've got Mongolian, or Udo King. He actually pretty much remained the same. Let me Mr.
Who do you think you are?
He actually has all of his LODs too. I never really cared for his model too much in game. I always thought he was kind of an ugly character. But he works as an enemy because, you know, all the enemies being ugly. It just makes sense. Especially being part of the ugly gang. I'm pretty sure he was part of that gang. So here's him in the prototype. And here's him in the final version. So next up we've got some kid version of Red. This is MRD. So this is before they actually made Red Jr. Actually, it's just Jody really, like the Paperboy Jody. But they gave him Red's outfit basically, which honestly this looks pretty sick. I can't lie, it looks cool. And then he has his red cast where he, you know, grabbed that gun, burned his hand, whatever. I'm assuming they would have still had that same reasoning of why his hand was red or burnt, whatever, or covered. They didn't get too far with this one in terms of like LODs. They didn't change anything. So they had like multiple LODs, but they just didn't have different versions of the LOD. Interesting how he has a little backpack too. Little sack pack kind of thingy. Thing is its ammo belt. Honestly, I do like this model. It's cool. So I'll show them off in the prototype here. And here's Kid Red in the final, just as a comparison. So yeah, that's MRD. Next up we've got Mr. Kelly, MRK. So for Mr. Kelly, they totally changed him. For some reason they decided they wanted to have him to be some like purple zombie kind of weird giant character. He's giant, by the way. Like, he is the tallest character in this prototype, I'm pretty sure. Big Josh might be close, but I still think Mr. Kelly might just be the tallest. Let me just compare by getting right up to his head. Might be him. Like, it might be the same as him. They might be the same height. Or maybe he's taller, actually. Big oaf over there. Frankenstein. But yeah, Mr. Kelly here. Weird lanky guy. There's all of his LODs. Which is interesting they made it this far with these versions with that many LODs. I wonder how they did the LODs. If they didn't have them, you know, for every character clearly, and they did for some. So it doesn't seem like it was like an automatic thing. They probably had to recreate the model more manually than just a click of a button, you know? So it's interesting that Mr. Kelly looking like this made it that far then to get all the LOD versions. But here's him in the prototype. And here's him in the final, just as a comparison.
The sharpest shooter and dresser in the whole territory, Mr. Kelly.
So yeah, that's Mr. Kelly. Next up, we've got MSK. So I'm assuming this would have been one of the Indians. I mean, pretty basic Indian model. Not a whole lot going on. He doesn't even have or yes, he does actually. His first and second look very similar. Okay, so yeah, I can see the difference now. I had to look closely, but is a little bit less details with his second LOD. In his third, obviously, no mouth or anything. It's crazy. But yeah, just a basic Indian model, basically. Like, it's not anything crazy for this character. He's cool. Like, he probably could have actually fit in the final for the final version, at least. Like, could have probably just been one of those Indians. And like you and in the bat and I. He kind of reminds me of the Indians from Gun a little bit. But here's him in the prototype version. And in the final version, he actually got changed into Standing Snake. So here's Standing Snake in the final version. So yep, that's that character. Very interesting how they changed him up. You can still see he has his blindfold as Standing Snake. Then next up we've got MST. MST being Red's master or trainer or whatever you want to call him. Grizzly though in the final. So he does look a bit more detailed in this version, I would say. They gave him more like a dirty look in the prototype. They cleaned him up in the final. It's interesting how they actually had bigger plans for this character than what they gave him in the final. He has 2 LODs. I'll show them off in the prototype here. And here's Grizzly in the final. Next up, we've got NCB, Smitty. So, as you can tell, he's got more geometry on his face. Also, he's got his hat. Compared to everyone else, no one else was able to get their hat with this import method. I don't know why. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get all the hats restored. But here's Smitty with his hat, so that's cool to have. Definitely take that. If you look closely, not even have to look that closely, but his eyes, they're a shade of yellow, which is very odd as well. I don't know why they had him as yellow. Here's his LOD2. Here's LOD3. Interestingly, he's the character with the most LODs. LOD4. It's getting a little ridiculous at this point. And like, yeah, you just took it a little too far. What is even the point of LOD5? Why do we need that? That would be so far away. It has to be like, that's so unusable. Me and Roberto were actually joking around saying that we want to make a Guitar Hero mod, replace, like, we really want to have the theater level from the final be the stage, or like the venue, and then have whoever's playing on stage, you know, but then have all Smitties be all the people in the audience cheering. That would be really funny, actually. But here's a Smitty in-game in the prototype. And here's Smitty in the final. So next up we've got Juan Loco Sanchez, or NGA. So for NGA, he looks pretty much the same as what we've got in the final, I would say. Obviously he's missing his hat, but pretty much the same thing. Yeah, LOD2 and then LOD3. Creepy looking, actually. Nothing too crazy with him. He's pretty much the same as what we've got in the final. I'll show him off in game here. And here's him in the final version. So that's NGA, Juan Loco Sanchez. Next up, we've got NOD, Blind Willie Wilson. So he's pretty much the same as well. He's the guy in the train cart that says,
"Howdy, stranger. Sure is a lot of traffic on this here line today, ain't there? I'm heading into town to get this here gun polished. How about you?"
and he's like pushing the cart all by himself, and you get on his cart to use his minigun. So interestingly with him, when we imported him, he's one of the only characters that I saw that got imported with an A pose instead of this like I pose or whatever you want to call this with the arms straight down. I've never actually heard of like whatever pose this is with the arms being straight down. I'm assuming it's like an I pose because that's what it makes me think of when I see it. But yeah, he has an A pose for his LOD 2. So that's kind of odd. I didn't see any other characters like that. And then here's LOD 3, which goes back to its I pose. Very interesting. So here's him in the prototype. And here's Willie in the final. So next up we've got one of the cooler models that I've been wanting is NRD Red. So this was one of the character designs for Red. I actually really like this design. He has a very long tailcoat. Honestly, he looks cool. He's taller. He's kind of more bulky, I would say. But this actual outfit is pretty cool, in my opinion. It's unfortunately missing its hat. Again, I wish we had all the hats, but we don't, unfortunately. But here's NRD Red in the prototype. And here's him in the final, which is very weird, by the way. We had to force him, overwrite him basically into a character slot that already existed. But he was clearly worked on. He's not the same as the prototype. So clearly this Red is a lot closer to the final version of Red that we've got. But then for some reason they decided to also make a new character ID for SRD Red and pretty much copy pasted and then worked on it from there. So it's very interesting to see how different his face was going to look too, especially. But yeah, I'm definitely glad about the whole art style change that we've got. But yeah, that's NRD Red. Now here's a very interesting character. So, this is NSD. He looks a lot like Smitty, but honestly, this beats the final so much. If you saw my community post, you already know who this is now, but you might even recognize him from his LOD2, because we're pretty sure they just used LOD2 and then retextured him for the final. But this is basically Diego's troops on the stage, the bridge, or the trader. and he's the one that just looks all fucky, that's like waving his arms by the cannons. So, I don't know why they would have downgraded this bad, but they sure did. So, here's him in the final version. Unfortunately, he was one of the characters that was not loadable in the prototype version. So, thankfully we do get to see him in the Blender file here. It's the only way we would have ever gotten to see him, so another huge advantage to Volcorn's mod to Blender tool here. So, mad props to him for this. Like, there's so many things we would not have gotten to see without this, so definitely appreciate him. Show him some love, by the way. He's in the description below. Got his channel linked. So definitely drop him a sub. Like, he's working on his own little projects for some GTA stuff. He's trying to remaster or import like all the maps from GTA games into Unreal 5. So far he's got GTA 3 on there. So if you want to ever like just kind of nostalgia trip and look around that map, I highly recommend downloading his little project and looking around. It's very cool. But next up we've got Natalie. So NTL Natalie. She's very different from the final version, honestly. Like, you can still see where they came from. Like, she still has a lot of her similarities to that. But they definitely changed her up quite a bit. They even gave her geometry for her belly button. That's crazy. What the heck? But as you can see, she has like Mr. Kelly's signature squiggle white with the black. So that's cool. You got LD2. She also has like some weird like backpack as well. Little book bag thingy. Didn't even notice that at first. And then there's LD3. I feel like all the LD3s just look like N64 characters. Kind of funny. But yeah, that's Natalie. Here's her in the prototype. And here's her in the final.
I don't want no trouble, mister. My uncle doesn't like it when other men talk to me. Tell me something. Is life always this hard, or is it just when you're a kid?
Next up we've got Pig Josh. Big classic. So, this is the original Pig Josh what we would have had in the Capcom version. Very interesting. It had some weird whiteout eyes. It has a lot more like design behind it almost. I feel like in the final we got more of a grounded look. This is way more cartoonified in my eyes. Like, it's got a style, I'll say. It's Capcom style. So I don't know if I like it more or less, to be honest. He definitely seems bigger. I'm not sure if that's just in my head or if like he actually is, but there's more detail to his like overalls here. But aside from that, not a whole lot going on. Still cool. So here's him in the prototype in game. And just for comparison, here's Pig Josh in the final version.
You gonna blow up real good, cowboy.
So I would definitely say that Pig Josh in the final version is a lot more grounded looking, a lot more realistic compared to the Capcom version, which is a lot more cartoony and stylized. Overall, I think I like it better in the final. That's Big Josh. Next up, we've got PLD. PLD in the final is named Bad Bob Larson. He has a slightly different look. He's a bit lighter color. If I remember correctly, his multiplayer variant actually does have this color. I could be wrong though. But this isn't the main texture they used in the story version of Bad Bob Larson. So cool to see his prototype version of him. He pretty much remained the same overall though, aside from the texture swap. But here's all of his LODs as well. And here's him in the prototype in game. And here's him in the final version. Alright, so next up we've got this interesting character. So, for some reason, they had a lot of tests for Red. I guess they just couldn't decide on like a final design right away. They were really like spitballing like random clothing ideas and stuff. So obviously you see the texture is wrong. It's because after looking in the textures, in the actual files for the textures, I realized that there's like multiple texture maps for like the face or the coat. Like for this one, his chest, like there's a separate texture for it. I couldn't find it or figure out how to UV map it on. But so I just slapped on the ones that look like they filled it out the most. But for this one, his character ID is RDC. Not really sure, maybe Red C, like maybe the third one. Not sure though. This was character ID RED, so just Red. He's one of the ones that actually made it into the final version. He's the Clint Eastwood looking one. For some reason, as you can tell, his hair is missing. Like, even in the final, this happens, where the hair is attached to the hat. Like the hat and the hair are just one item. So when he dies and loses his hat, he also loses his hair. So you'll see like the back of his head like this. I'll show that off right now. This one's called COB. This one's called COC. So this one's interesting. This is the only one that I've seen in a T pose. So just sticking straight out, which I wish they were all like this, to be honest. It would be so much easier for character rigging and like giving them a skeleton and actually weight painting everything. But unfortunately they all are whatever pose this is. I pose is what I've been calling it. But that's COD with the T pose. And then COT, or sorry, yeah, no, it's COT. I thought it was an A. But yeah, COT. Which is funny because he's not the T pose. You would think COT would have been the T pose. But anyways, you may be wondering why this one's lower. I kept everyone at their same height when I imported them. And so when I saw he was like halfway in the ground, I just left them like that. Just to kind of mention it, be like, I think these are all test variants. I think part of his test was just to test maybe height or something. So I don't know why they had him halfway in the ground like that. But every other character spawns in, or got imported correctly. But yeah, this is red. This is, which red? This is also red, just LOD2. This is LOD3. But yeah, that's all those reds. So when I imported these guys from the final version of the game, they actually got all their textures correct. So here's what COA, COB, and COC look like. And weirdly enough, COT doesn't actually exist in this final version, so. But we still have the T-pose version, which is very interesting. But anyways, here's RED in the prototype build of the game. And here he is in the final version of the game. Roberto also plans on releasing a mod where you can play as this version of Red for the entire story of the game, so I'll have that linked in the description below. So yeah, that pretty much covers him. He would have been cool to see though. Like, I wish we could have gotten a loadable version of this one as well with the trench coat. So this trench coat's pretty interesting to look at. But yeah, next up we've got Batboy, a fan favorite. Wish we would have got him in the final. So here's Batboy. He's just missing his hat, unfortunately, but as you can see, he's got knives attached to his hands. That's actually just a part of his model, which is interesting. When he's flying around, he'll throw knives at you in game. That's cool to see that they're just there. Interestingly though, LOD 2 and 3 don't even have the knives included. And they don't lose too much of their quality actually when you look at the lower LODs. So that's cool too. But here's Batboy, or SCB, in the prototype. And here's Batboy in the final version. We had to fix him up as well, but he is in the final version's files. So that's very cool. Like, we still have him. He's in there. We just have to repair him and fix up his skeleton and whatnot. Again, it's worth noting that I gave all the characters that I restored, quote unquote, red skeleton, so this is definitely not the proper build for Batboy. And it is possible to actually bring him back to his former glory. It would just take a little bit more effort. So yeah, that's Batboy. Next up, we've got SDG. So this is Soldier Gigolo. The soldier variant of Gigolo. Which is interesting, they actually had all the soldier variants. I did not expect that when I was importing these. They're pretty much the same though, like face-wise, but the outfit has changed. I mean, the same as the final version, really. There's really not much difference at all. Maybe except for like the texture is changed up a bit. I don't think all of this is here. I think that's like rips in his uniform. I'm not actually sure though. That's what it looks like. But here's SDG in game. And here he is in the final version. So interestingly, the main thing that I've seen that was changed about Private Hansen here is that he's got a brown shirt instead of a blue one like he did in the prototype. That's SDG. Now we've got SDH, which is Soldier Hedgehog. Pretty much same as what we've got. That's interesting. They had like rips in the textures of his shirt and stuff. I don't think I've ever noticed that, to be honest with you. I don't know if they even have that in the final version. I'll have to look closely and see. Jesus. Some of these LODs are hilarious. Here he is for the prototype. And here he is in the final version. So interestingly, this Soldier Hedgehog model is actually a little transparent, and he pretty much looks exactly the same as he did in the prototype build. It's a very common thing for some reason in the prototype for the characters to be transparent as well. So that's Soldier Hedgehog. Forgot to mention, that's Private Hansen. That's Private Rat Chavez. These are Diego's soldiers specifically, not the governor's soldiers. So same thing with Whiskey here, Soldier Whiskey. Interestingly, I don't think he has this in the final, but he has like either a scar down his eye or like just maybe some makeup or something. But cool little bit of detail that I never noticed. This is Soldier Whiskey, and this is Private Mad Dog Jones in the final. Very interesting how they have a lot of these guys have their holsters included on their model. because that's not actually like that in the final version. No one has their holster like that. So when we like fix up old versions of character models, we'll notice that like they have two holsters overlapping because of that. Because they have one on their model and then they have the one that actually loads in from the guns. Which we did find a way to mod the SWAT file to like get rid of your holsters that spawn in with the guns. And we also found a way to like do it per character, so like we were able to give like the bird its holsters back and stuff. Different things like that. But like they're not included on the models anymore like in the final. So here he is in the prototype version. And here he is in the final version.
I hear. Ow! Ow! Ouch!
So interestingly, they actually have another version of this soldier whiskey model that has a torch pretty much glued to his hand, and he's used in Bear Mountain. So next up we've got SHP, which is Curly Shaw in the final. Interestingly, all of his LODs are the same. There are no differences. I already looked this one over and I was like, yeah, I'm not seeing anything that's different between all of them. So it's very strange that they, again, some of them have that, some of them don't. But here he is in the prototype build. And here he is in the final version. So that's Scrooge or Curly Shaw. Next up we've got SNP, which is Sniper. So for Sniper here, we got a very different design from what we got in the final. Honestly, this would be a cool thing to try to fix up and revert back into the final. Try to bring them back. I wouldn't mind trying to get all these old characters back, especially like this one though. I like the design of them. So he's got 3 LODs in total. And the Sniper in the final's name is Jaquez or Jaquez, I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Jaquez. Not sure. But as you can tell, he doesn't have this long goatee. They completely like cut that. He doesn't have those big ears. He has a hat over top that covers part of the ears. So here he is in the prototype build. As you'll notice with this guy, he's just really fast. kind of wish that they would have left his speed, because it would be really fun to be able to run this fast and speed run the game with this character. And here he is in the final build. So very different. And then next up we've got a very interesting character here. This is character ID TAL, or Tall. I'm not sure who this is supposed to be. It could have been maybe Buffalo Soldier. That's my only real guess, to be honest with you. It looks like he might have had a mustache. I don't think they textured it, but God, that's clipping bad, hopping in and out. Very interesting. They like made it the same color of his skin, so can't tell. He looks atrocious though. Like, he is not the same art style as any of these characters. He's just like out of left field, like crazy. Unfortunately, he's one of the characters that also doesn't spawn in. If you try to overwrite your character, you just get an error message as well. So too bad on that, but he does still exist in the finals game files, and we did get him to spawn in there. So here's that. So it's very odd when it comes to this character, and also JES, Jesse, because it's like they're in a totally different art style. It almost seems like these characters were all in a group in a totally different game, or maybe the game was in a totally different state at the time of their making. So maybe these guys are just super old. But there's actually a couple other textures that we found that are in the same art style. So yeah, that's Tall. As you can see, his hat is also a part of his model. I don't know. He was just done up differently than all the characters. So I'm guessing that's just a prototype version of Buffalo Soldier. Very interesting nonetheless. Next up, we've got TCA. So TCA is Longhorn Luke in the final version. For some reason, he's one of like the zombie henchmen kind of characters. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. Like Mr. Kelly and like his zombie henchmen, like so is TCB here. TCB being Holstein Hal, which, by the way, fun fact, when you're in Range War, if you're looking at their health bars, their names are actually swapped. So that's very confusing, but this is Longhorn Luke and this is Holstein Hal, not the other way around. So very weird oversight. Man, this is a ugly looking character. There we go. Might as well show him off too, kind of as a combo. Holstein Hal here. All of his abilities. Crazy. And here is Longhorn Luke in the prototype version. Here he is in the final version. Here's Holstein Hell in the prototype version. And here he is in the final. So next up we've got TCK. So this is Sam, the one that charges at ya. He has a crazy beard, and he has a pretty much a zombie face like those guys. Not sure what the heck they were thinking with this character's design, like the face at least. Honestly, the beard's a little much too, I'm not gonna lie. But he has 3 LODs as well. Looks like Gandalf. I don't know. That's what the heck, man. Look at those lips and the teeth. Man, they're comical. I swear, those lower level of detailed versions are crazy. But anyways, here's him in the prototype build. And here's him in the final as a comparison.
Now the real show begins.
So yeah, huge difference. Thank God, because what is this? Next up we've got Jody, but this is just another version of Red. This is training Red. So when you're being trained by Grizzly over there, this is who you're playing as by default. He still has his little book bag. Doesn't have his cast on his arm, which is interesting. So I guess maybe the training happens before the trauma, huh? What's a better training process though than trauma? Okay, get all the LOD versions here. Now here's TRD in the prototype version. Not too sure what happened with this character model, but it seems that his legs are not rigged at all correctly. I'm wondering if it's a possibility to even be able to fix this. I would think it would be. First option would probably be trying to copy paste the skeleton from the prototype to the final, but I'm not too sure if that worked. Next up we've got Twiggy, TWG. So, interestingly, he looks a lot more dirty in this. I don't know what happened, he looks filthy. But he's got 3 LODs. He doesn't even have his toothpick at the funnel on the straw or whatever. But here's him in game in the prototype. And here he is in the final version. So interestingly, there's an unused Twiggy model character ID, TW7, and his only difference is that he has a hat on his back. And next up we've got Ugly Chris, UGL. So he also has facial rigging, as you can tell. He has the red cast. He still has that actually in the final version. Interesting. There was supposed to be like a whole thing where Ugly Chris is pretending to be quote unquote the Red Hand, and the Red Hand is supposed to be Red Harlow, and like they called him the Red Hand. But like there's a whole cut story when you're reading through like all the dialogue in the files, like the actual text files and stuff. You'll see a lot about that stuff like in the old. It's cut, but it's still there. It's all in the files. Like you can read all about it. It's cool. Interestingly though, with the face version, he has an A pose instead of the I pose. But then here's LOD1, so here's what his face would have looked like. Quite different, honestly. Actually, maybe a little bit more grounded than the other one. Like the final version, because he has an ugly eye for the final. LOD2 here, and LOD3. So here he is in the prototype. And here he is in the final version. So that's Ugly Chris. So next up we've got, this one is weird, the name for Whiskey. His face version is literally character ID FAC, so like for face. I don't know why, like maybe he was the first one they added a face model to. That's my guess. He's also shorter. I don't know what the deal is with that. Like they made his face version shorter than the other version, so that's also an oddity to this. But here's what he would have looked like. Same like scar or whatever makeup kind of thing going down his eye here. This is just regular Whiskey though, not the soldier version. But he's pretty much the same thing as the soldier version of him. So here he is in the prototype build. And here he is in the final version. He's pretty much got the same issue as the rest of the face version of the characters, where the texture is laid out wrong. So his face is all over stretched on his actual body. And then he actually has a textureless face here. And then next up we've got YDG. YDG, assuming is Young Dance Girl. I don't know for sure, but that's my guess, is Young Dance Girl. That's the only thing I can make sense out of for that name. But honestly, this could have been a totally usable character model for an NPC in Brimstone. Like, I don't know why this would have been cut, to be honest. But it was, and this is how she looked. Like, I like the yellow dress and yellow bonnet. Like, it's a cool outfit. They could have added a little bit more vibrancy to the character models in Brimstone. I feel like we were lacking in a lot of different character models for the NPCs there. But here she is in-game in the prototype. And here she is after we've overwrit a character model for the final version. With how good this character model looks, I am very surprised that they didn't use her as a NPC for like Brimstone or anything. She definitely could have worked. So that's Young Dance Girl. Next up, we've got YRD. So just Young Red, I'm sure, is what that's supposed to stand for. Again, regular hands, nothing going on there. No book bag this time though. He's got like that thing around his neck. I think this is closer to the final Jody that we've got than any of the other versions of Young Red. So that's interesting as well to see. So I'm pretty sure Jody has this. And all the LODs for him. So here he is in the prototype. the final version. This version of Jody is actually completely unused. They just kind of left them in the game files because they actually made up an entirely new model for this version of Jody here, which is JDY, and he always has a newspaper in his hands. So that's very interesting to see as well. So next up, we've got ZZT. So this was the original Gabriel. He's quite different actually. Like, you can tell it's the same character, but it's like a totally different style. So that's very interesting. Obviously more detail there, like it has an L satchel. Pretty cool to see. LD2 here. And Gandalf for LD3. Jeez. Keep in mind, you're not supposed to see them that close. Oh yeah, he loses his satchel there. That's interesting. And then, just lumping him in, this is ZZ2, because he's the exact same character model. He would have probably been Oscar, or maybe Paul Swig Bennett. Because there's Gabriel, there's Oscar, and there's Paul. But they all like share the same character model. But I'm guessing he could have been either Oscar or Paul, but like at the time obviously they didn't even have names, so. So here's ZZT in the prototype build. Here he is in the final version. So I'm sure for those of you who've actually played the game and gone exploring, I'm sure you've ran into ZZT in the bar, which is character ID ZZT bar. And his only difference really is that he has no hat. And here's ZZ2 in the prototype version. And here he is in the final version. So in the final version, he actually is completely unused in terms of enemies. Like, he's never actually placed in any levels. And he's pretty much a complete duplicate of ZZT. So yeah, that pretty much covers every character model in the prototype build of Red Dead Revolver. So all the Capcom version characters all lined up, all in alphabetical order. And this entire Blender file will be available to download in the link in the description below. I'm also going to include a pnatch file. It's going to be updated to have all of the codes to load in all of these characters in, even the ones that don't work, just to kind of be thorough. I'm going to have all of the character model overwrites in there alongside of all of the levels. So in order to use the cheats, all you have to do is launch the game, download the pnatch file from the description below. You can open up data directory here and it will show you your installation folder. You can paste your pnatch file right into here. You'll open it and you can edit it however you want. So if you want to change your character, really just find the character ID that you want, copy this part, and you're going to paste it into the extended line and just save that. And if you want a certain level as well, just scroll down to the levels, remove the forward slashes, save that, go to tools, reload / cheat / patches, you'll see that, and then you can just load in and you'll be whatever character on whatever level. Definitely, if you guys want to explore that, check that out in the description below. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I put a lot of effort into it, so definitely show me some support by leaving a like, dropping a comment, telling me how you guys liked it, and tell me your thoughts on it. Tell me what you think about the character designs compared to the final version. It's very interesting, actually, because it's a very different style overall, and it's crazy we've got a lot of the leftovers from the prototype in the final still. But yep, that's gonna be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.